Good evening, barflies and lounge lizards, and welcome to Glow in the Dark Cinema. And tonight we'll be discussing Night Tide from 1961. Written and directed by Curtis Harrington, Night Tide is an independent, borderline mystery with light fantasy sci-fi elements. A truly unique film that at times looks and feels much like a 1950s film noir, and features an exceptional cast, great atmosphere, and a wonderful boardwalk setting. And it tells the story of a young sailor who, whilst on shore leave, meets a young woman at a jazz club. The two eventually hit it off, and our young sailor Johnny finds out that the girl is a performer of sorts. She works for a sideshow portraying a mermaid. As the two grow closer, it comes into question whether or not Mora is actually human or not. There's also two unsolved murders and a mysterious woman in black to complicate things. And much like George Romero's Martin, Mora's true nature is left ambiguous. There are answers here, but even those come with more questions. Director Curtis Harrington, who worked in both television and film, also worked on Voyage to the Prehistoric Planet, which was one of two versions Roger Corman adapted from the Soviet film Polenta Burr. Harrington not only oversaw the editing and dubbing, but he also directed the new footage featuring Basil Rathbone. He would eventually move into TV, directing episodes of Wonder Woman, Logan's Run, and the 80s version of The Twilight Zone. As mentioned, Night Tide features an exceptional cast. Our lead is none other than Dennis Hopper in his first starring film role. But this is a young, fresh-faced, almost subdued Hopper, not quite the eccentric wild man we would come to know from some truly memorable roles, including Hang 'em High, True Grit, Easy Rider, and Blue Velvet. And though most think of Hopper as a movie star, he was quite the prolific TV actor in the early part of his career as well. He appeared in over 140 TV episodes, including the original Twilight Zone, The Time Tunnel, and Gunsmoke. Next we have Linda Lawson as our possible siren. Lawson was an actress and singer who did a handful of films, but was mostly a TV actress, having appeared on The Alfred Hitchcock Hour, Bonanza, and Perry Mason. She was married to movie producer John Foreman, who produced The Ice Pirates from 1984. Being able to tie Night Tide to The Ice Pirates? Yeah, that's some pretty good YouTubing right there. And finally we have Gavin Muir as the former sea captain who runs the sideshow. Muir was a film, TV, and theater actor who also appeared in The Island of Lost Women, Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man, and Sherlock Holmes in The House of Fear from 1945. A standout of an already standout series of films. Being that this is a mysterious and ambiguous film, there is very little in the way of effects. That said, there is a really strange dream sequence with a squid-like creature getting chummy with the great Mr. Hopper. Though low budget, it's a highly effective and unsettling scene. As to who did the creature effects, that is currently an ambiguous mystery. Night Tide was filmed in 1960, had its premiere in 61, but didn't have a general release until February 13, 1963. Part of the delay came about because the production company defaulted on their loan from the film lab, and said lab was going to take legal action, but Roger Corman stepped in and managed to work out a deal. The budget of the film itself was $28,000, so money was tight, so much so that most of the background actors were friends of the crew, and supposedly, the role of the sideshow owner was offered to Peter Lorre, but the production could not afford his rate. Speaking of almost wases and could have beens, the role of Mora was originally to be played by Susan Harrison, who patrons of the snack bar probably know as the ballerina from the Twilight Zone episode 5 Characters in Search of an Exit. That's 3 Twilight Zone references now if you're counting. But she dropped out before filming began because, according to Harrington, she had a shifty boyfriend who demanded more money than the production had. And now for this week's supposedly section. Supposedly, Dennis Hopper was threatened arrest by military police when they spotted him on the pier, thinking he was an actual sailor wearing a dirty uniform. But the uniform wasn't dirty at all. It had just been custom made a shade darker to show up better on film. And finally, the film's title was a reference to the Edgar Allan Poe poem Annabel Lee. Director Harrington was a massive Poe fan. His first film, which was a short film he made at the age of 16, was an adaptation of The Fall of the House of Usher. There is also a song in the film called Telltale Harp, and when Night Tide was finally released by AIP, it played on a double feature with The Raven, starring Vincent Price, Peter Lorre, and Boris Karloff. The haunting atmospheric score was written by David Raksin. Raksin was an accomplished composer with over 100 film credits and around 300 TV credits. These include The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes with Basil Rathbone in 1939, The Undying Monster from 1942, and even some of the stock music used for Gorilla at Large from 1954. Night Tide has been released on VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, and a special remastered Blu-ray by Kino. And I give this one 4 atomic popcorns out of 5. I caught this one live on Dr. Gangrene's Sanitarium, and I was really impressed with its noir-esque feel, strong performances, and unusual atmosphere. And that's all the time we have for this week. Please like, comment, subscribe, watch the skies, and stay atomic.
It's hard to fall asleep when some of the things you've eaten insist on staying up past your bedtime. If there are little things still kicking around, your stomach is going to keep you awake. Unless you take Alka-Seltzer. Those soothing alkalizers in Alka-Seltzer can quiet an upset stomach, and Alka-Seltzer's bubbles help bubble your stomach's troubles away. Ouch! Alka-Seltzer before bedtime. If your stomach doesn't get a good night's rest, neither will you.
Starkiss presents Charlie the Tuna.
I know what that is, Charlie.
Yeah, what is it?
A modern statue.
Yeah, you looked at the label.
Yeah. What you doing with it, Charlie?
Sending it to Starkiss so they'll notice what good taste I got.
They can tell from that?
Of course, dummy. They know that only guys with real good taste can stand to be around this junk.
That makes sense. That makes sense. But, Charlie, they ain't exactly looking for tunas with good taste. Starkiss wants tunas that taste good.
Nah, here they come. Can you see it from up there?
Sorry, Charlie, but only the best-tasting tuna get to be Starkissed. Best tasting because Starkissed is 100% prime fillet. It is the best-tasting tuna. For the best-tasting tuna, get Starkissed.
Tell them Charlie sent you.